Hi, everyone. As part of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, the Illinois Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Diversity Committee and the Illinois Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Pathway to Leadership students wanted to share with you their experiences as Asian American dietetics students in Illinois. So, this session will be hosted by Hannah Dungan, an Illinois Pathway to Leadership student from OSF St. Francis, and will include Sophia Chung and Siobhan Shen, who are dietetic students from Bradley University, and Zoe Shen, who is also a dietetic intern at University of Chicago, or U Chicago Medicine. I'll let Hannah take it away.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you all for these lovely ladies for volunteering to share some of their experiences with us today. I just want to disclose these are personal stories and personal experiences, and they don't describe everyone from this culture. So I'm just going to go through a list of questions that we have for you guys just to learn a little bit more about your background for Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So we'll start with Zoe. Question number 1. As a guest coming to family dinner, what would one expect as far as proper meal etiquette?
So as I'm from Hong Kong and I'm an international student, come across here. I've been studying in US for the 5th year as now. So I think the most notable thing that you will know about is that most of the Asian families, especially my family and the people around me, would have like shared meals. So we use a lot of chopsticks and rice bowls, and then we all have our own chopsticks and rice bowls, and with like different dishes that's planted out, and we use our chopsticks to do it. We do not really care about the sanitary issues, but we're always like sharing dishes, and we often sit at a round table, which is representing like a unity type of meaning when we're having meals. That is one of our culture.
I know I see a lot like of Asian restaurants have the little spin thing in the middle of the table. Do you guys do that?
So those are a little bit more unless you have a bigger family, then you will have to. That spin table is basically helping you to reach foods that is too far from away from you. But if it's like a smaller family, like for me it's like a family of 3, then we will all sit together in like a small table, but still having our dishes planted out, and we'll be all using our chopsticks to pick it on it. And one of the manner that you have to be applying to will be you have to get that if you want a dish and you want to pick it, you have to pick the one that is closest to you. So you don't pick around the whole dish and try to pick one that is the best, but you have to pick the one that's closest to you, and then you cannot stick your chopsticks into the rice because that is like a more like a religious thing that we don't want to not stick it like this on as look at incense, yes.
Okay.
It's like a representation of incense, and that's not so good if you do it on table. So probably not. Don't stick any chopsticks or utensils into your rice bowl.
Yeah, I agree. Like, for my family, we never stick our chopsticks upright in our rice bowl or in any dishes. Yeah, because like Zoe said, it represents incense, and we burn it for our ancestors. So it's for the dead. And if we do that at the table, it's just a really bad omen.
Okay. All right. Well, now we'll move on to Sophia then. So same question as far as if a guest came for family dinner, what would you expect as far as proper etiquette?
Yeah, in terms of etiquette, I completely agree with Zoe. My family practices all that she said. What the term I would say is that we when we eat, we call it family style, where instead of individually having our own sets of dishes or plate, the only individual thing we have would be like our rice bowl and then our bowl of soup. But then we share our like vegetables, stir fries, seafood dishes, and other meat dishes. So that's family style where we pick out of the food. In terms of etiquette, I would say that if there are elders in the room, we would have them start eating first out of respect. And then we would also pick like the good meat parts, like the thighs or like the chicken breast for the elders and for the children. And then the adults will have like the other parts. um, and yeah, like Zoe said, we do not pick like all over, like use our chopsticks to touch every single bit of the pieces in the dish. We just pick whatever it is, and if we accidentally touch something, we'll just get that piece too. Yeah, those are some things of in terms of etiquette. I think like some other families, they have their own utensils for the dishes, so it just depends on which family you're eating with. Like for bigger, larger gatherings, you mentioned like the spinning table, Hannah, and those are what we call like the lazy Susans or something like that.
Yeah.
And for that, in big gatherings like that, we would have our own utensils, like serving utensils. But then if it's a family of like 3 or 4, we just grab it ourselves with our chopsticks.
Okay. So you're just kind of
Um,
grabbing and sharing the main food, and then you guys get your own rice bowls.
yeah, and our soup too would be our individual ones. And then another in terms of etiquette is that if it's home cooking, especially, the family takes pride in what they make to guests. So make sure that you praise them at the end, saying that the food is good. And once you finish eating and everyone is finished eating, you can also offer, if you are able to help clean up or wash the dishes.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
And Zoe, you mentioned you're from Hong Kong, right?
Yes.
And Sophia, what's your background?
My parents are from China, yeah. I'm Cantonese, so which I think Zoe is as well.
Very cool. So a lot of similarities too.
Right. Siobhan, same question.
Yes. Yeah, thanks, Hannah. So I grew up, I was born and raised in Minnesota, but my family, my parents are from Singapore. So they came over from Singapore like about 25 years ago. So like a lot of my extended family, all my grandparents are still back there. So I definitely grew up with that Singapore influence. And in terms of meal etiquette, as Zoe and Sophia said, we also do family style. We love sharing, trying different foods. So you'll just come to our table and you'll see a wide range of foods right in the middle. We all sit down, enjoy our foods, and that applies to like when we also go out to eat. So like when we go out to restaurants, we all just like pick a dish, like just like we tell the servers just plop it in the middle, and we all just share stuff too. So it's really fun. It was definitely like I guess something I have to get used to when I left for college. And I want to go out to eat with my friends. I had to like stick to one dish. It was so hard to just pick one dish. So I definitely have tried to influence my friends to kind of adopt that family style because I think it's really fun. So yeah, definitely family style. As Sophia mentioned, food is like a very big way that people express love to you. So get ready to eat a lot. Get ready to be stuffed, especially if my grandmas are over. They won't take no for an answer. So they'll just keep dishing food onto your plate one after another. So just be ready to eat a lot. And as Sophia said, like really praise them. They really put their heart into their cooking. So yeah, that's pretty much, Sophia and Zoe really summed it up. It's really the same for, I guess, the Singapore culture in terms of etiquette when eating.
And that's so interesting that there's
Yeah.
so many similarities, especially with the family style.
Mm-hmm.
I know I had to adapt when I started dating my boyfriend, whose family is from Vietnam, and we went to a restaurant and we all kind of ordered food, and then they were all like reaching across, like eating on my plate, and I was like, oh, like this is what's happening. So I've kind of had to adapt to the family style way of doing things when I eat with them.
Do you like it though, Hannah?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I feel like it's nice because you kind of get to try everything.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like now, like when we go to a restaurant with my family, I'm like, hey,
Wait,
let's
can I? Yeah.
share all these plates. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, it's definitely been a good experience.
Awesome.
All right. Now we're moving on to the second question. So what types of foods and dishes might be on your table? We'll start with Zoe.
So Hong Kong is very close to the ocean. So that's why we have a lot of seafoods. So, and one of my favorite dishes is like crabs and also like steamed fish. I would say it's very often to have like type of seafood served at the table for any Cantonese family because it's just very affordable and we're just like a harbor. So that's why we have like fresh seafoods every day. Um, Also with a very affordable price and with like very good nutrients in them as well. So that's why we are having a lot of those. And we basically have a milder taste buds as Hong Kong people. Like we don't often season, we don't use a lot of spices in our food. It is more like we try to restoring their actual taste and their freshness and try to like keep it as same as the table but still having it cooked. So I would say like for Hong Kong it's more of the milder taste, more like the sweet and savory side, and also the freshness of seafood.
Well, I know you said you don't really like season a whole lot. When you do season, do you have a few like staple seasonings or herbs that you usually use?
Yeah, so like it's pretty basic. It's basically just green onions, ginger, and soy sauce, maybe some like fermented soybeans. So that's it. That's basically it because our location is pretty nice and we don't really like to season a lot of food. Maybe oyster sauce as well. That's also a very nice staple of ours.
Awesome. So you just have your go-tos.
Yes.
Okay. Sophia, same question. What types of foods and dishes might be on your table?
Yes. So before I get to that, I just want to add to Zoe's list. So my family uses all of those herbs and spices. My family also adds like cilantro and then also garlic too in their dishes. Um, so what kind of meals would you expect in like dishes would you expect in a meal? So I mentioned rice and then soup, vegetable dishes, meat dishes, and then dessert as well. So for soup, it's a very light soup. Sometimes you would taste it. It's like a very light, like yellow color or brownish color. It's not creamy at all, like the American soup. And the way like my mother makes it is that she boils it with like a type of bone or like meat. And then add some herbs to it, like dried goji berries or dried dates. What else? Like tree bark too, and like other starches in there, such as taro or red beans. So that would be in terms of soup. Vegetable dishes, most of them would be stir fry, but some common like vegetables you might expect would be like squashes, taros. I love bitter melon. They do bitter melon with egg, lotus root, radishes, napa cabbage, and then soy plum, which is not very common here in Peoria that I find, but the Asian market has it, luckily. Um, Meat dishes. My family loves fresh fish too, like Zoe. So we would have steamed fish, not like the deep fried versions of fishes. So for the fish, it would be steamed with like fresh garlic and then green onions, ginger, and then soy sauce and fish sauce is so good. Um, there's chicken, soy sauce chicken. There's a white one too, ginger sauce, and like stir fried beef with vegetables. We don't really eat things like big, large meat servings like steak. It's more like chopped up, marinated in some sauce, and then stir fried with some vegetables. And lastly, for dessert, some of my favorites. I know there's a long list, but my favorites would be like red bean soup, mango pudding, and then sesame soup.
I'm curious. There's a cake that they always have at like family gatherings when I go to my boyfriend's family who's Vietnamese, and they call it the stinky cake. Does anyone know what that is? I feel like it starts with a D, but I'm not sure if you guys have ever had.
Oh, durian?
Yes.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah, it stinks. So it's very true. The name fits it very well. Yeah. It's a very, very like people like it's banned from like flying. Like you can't bring it on a plane. You can't bring it in some like restaurants, hotels, buses because it smells so bad. But yeah, that's definitely very common in Singapore.
Does it taste like
Siobhan,
it
do
smells?
oh,
Yeah, it does taste like it smells. So it's a very acquired taste.
Siobhan, you said that it stinks, so I'm guessing you don't like durian, or
Oh
do
my
you
gosh.
like, you don't?
No. Which is really unfortunate because, and even though like I don't like it and I tell my grandma I don't like it, every time I go back, she still buys a whole one and they're like huge. And so like I just like eat it just to like make her happy. But secretly I hate it. But I wish I liked it. It's one of those things you wish you liked.
It's definitely an acquired taste. And Siobhan, I think it's so funny that you mentioned that your grandma always buys it because I literally went home to my parents last weekend and my mom bought durian and
Yes.
she was like, Tina, you should have some. I'm like, no, I don't like
I
this.
don't
She
like
goes, and she's like, you used to eat it when you were younger. I was like, yeah, but I don't like it now. Like, I actually grew
Exactly.
out of liking it. So
Yeah.
it's a very acquired taste. It can be kind of soft and
Yes.
sweet depending on which ones you get, but you do
Mhm.
have to get past the smell of it first.
Mhm.
But it can be good, but definitely an acquired taste.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I'm gonna have to try it, but you guys really aren't selling me on it.
You never know.
It's really creamy. Like the actual
Yeah.
fruit is really creamy, and it is still the king of tropical fruit.
Yes.
I personally don't really enjoy it. I tried it. I don't hate it, but with the smell, I just
Yeah.
I just can't.
I'll sell it to you, Hannah. So am I the only one that likes it?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so people will compare it to kind of like a ice cream texture
Yeah.
because it's super
Okay.
creamy. It's sweet too, so if
Mhm.
you are a fan of sweet fruits, that's one to go. And like the smell, I would say it smells really good. Like it fills up the whole room. It's like a really strong perfume.
I'm gonna have to try it.
I'm glad you like it, Sophia.
Sophia, did you have anything to add for your foods
Oh
or?
no, that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Then
feel like one more thing that I will add is actually Asians eat a ton of pork, which is not very abundant in the States. Like for in terms of meat, like a lot of our stir fries use a lot of pork, or we braise porks, make it a different way. Like we also have like BBQ porks, like fried ones. So we do eat a lot of pork products. We have pork sausages, like those like very thin ones and very flavorful ones, but it might be a little bit harder to just like in terms of like if you are American and then you are not very exposed into the Asian culture, then that would be something that you want to expect because you are going to have some kind of pork dishes on your table.
I have definitely experienced that. I feel like my family would eat pork like on occasion, but my boyfriend's family eats it like pretty much every day. It's a staple in their diet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, Siobhan, what types of foods and dishes might be on your table?
Yeah, so Singapore is a really small island that's like right by the equator. So a lot of fresh tropical fruits, some that like you would never find here, that just look super weird, but they're so tasty. The fruit there is like probably my favorite thing. It's so tasty. Um, and then seafood. So Singapore is such a tiny island that they don't have room to like have their own livestock. So everything with like steak, chicken, pork has to be imported. So it's really expensive meat there. So seafood is their way in Singapore. So a lot of, and unlike Zoe, we love our spices. So since Singapore used to be like a really big port for transportation to India and all the rest of Asia, we got a lot of spices from all the different places in the world. So a lot of spices. So like chili crab is the national dish of Singapore. So chili crab, a lot of seafood. Hainanese chicken is actually a really popular dish. So because Singapore is such a melting pot, so it's made up of immigrants from all different countries around Asia. So like my grandparents, we have heritage from China and Malaysia. So it's just like a really mix of all the different cooking styles. So We have Hainanese chicken and chicken rice, which is pretty much just like a boiled chicken, really, really simple, but yet it's like amazing. So we just use like ginger and lemongrass, so fragrant, really, really tasty. It's one of those dishes you can like eat every day because it's just so tasty yet looks so simple. So you never get like bored of it. So Hainanese chicken rice, a lot of noodles,
What
especially
kind of chicken
from
are you saying? I'm sorry, I've never
oh
heard.
yeah, so it's called Hainanese. So it's from Hainan Island in China. So yeah, we kind of took it from them and kind of made our own twist on it. But that's kind of so everybody from Hainan Island who moved to Singapore brought that dish with them, and kind of yeah brought it to life in Singapore. So that's a huge one. You can find it in a lot of the so we have hawker centers, which is pretty much like little stalls, like a food court, and the that's where everybody goes to eat pretty much. Malaysian food, so a lot of spices, a lot of curries, a lot of noodles. My grandma, the village she's from, they make the most amazing noodles. Like I thought I knew pasta or noodles before then, but like when she cooked me, the one she like brought back from Malaysia, it was amazing. So highly recommend trying some noodle dishes. A lot of Indian food. So we had like an actual little India in Singapore, and you can get the most authentic, amazing Indian food where they serve it to you on a banana leaf, and they just walk around with curry pots and just put it down and you eat with your fingers. They love eating with their hands. Lots of naan bread, curry, and stuff. And we also have a Chinatown in Singapore too, so you can get your Chinese food. So it's a really great, like, if you want to taste the flavors of the world, Singapore is your place to go, one stop kind of shop for everything.
Oh, that's awesome. I love
Yeah.
how like they just incorporated a little bit of everything.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I have one more question. We'll start with Zoe. How do you think food has evolved from generation to generation from your experience?
So from my standpoint, probably I have the least like differences because I'm an international student and I spent 16 years in my home country, in my hometown. And so I would say things that I wasn't able to accept will be like organ meats. It's probably my personal preferences. I wasn't so like in Hong Kong, there's a lot of street foods featuring a lot of like cows organs, like from intestines to stomach to like livers to everything, or like from or like pig bloods, chicken bloods, or like those I wasn't really able to enjoy them personally. But one thing that you think it might be a little weird, but a lot of Asians do enjoy it is chicken feet, and I still enjoy that dish. So
So
yep.
do you feel like the older adults like in your families usually like the organ meats and those kind of things?
Yeah, actually, some of my friends really enjoyed those as well. Like even in my generation, the friends that I know back in Hong Kong from my high school, but for some reason, I just can't really get my taste bud around it. So yeah, probably a personal preference.
Understandable. Sophia, what about you? How do you think food has evolved from generation to generation from your experience?
Well, for me, I'm like a super foodie, like the main foodie in my family. So I like to try a lot of different cultural dishes. So I like once I tried it and I liked it, I tried to incorporate some of those like ingredients or like dishes in my meals. So it's kind of different than what my family does because it's mainly like Asian cuisine. Like for example, I when I make dumplings, I like putting kimchi in it, and I make like kimchi fried rice, or I like to add fruits like pineapple to my fried rice and nuts and seeds. Yeah, just things like that. Or like when I make curry, I add coconut cream to it too. So those are just like some like subtle differences compared to when my family cooks. Another thing is that my mom, she likes to cook things like dinner and lunch fresh. So it's like every day she cooks and the food is like fresh to eat. But for me, as a like college student with limited time, I meal prep a lot of the time. So not everything is fresh. It's just a different cooking method from my mom.
Does your family like it when you add like the coconut and your own ingredients or
Yeah, yeah.
were
So
like,
they did try my coconut curry and they said it was really good. I also introduced like a very simple steak to them and they liked it.
wow,
Yeah.
that's okay. Siobhan, what about you? How do you think food has evolved from generation to generation in your experience?
Yeah, so I would have to say the same. Like being in Minnesota, right? You don't have access to a lot of the ingredients, the authentic ingredients to make the recipe. So we kind of have had to like really improvise. So there's like a dish in Singapore, it's called laksa, which is pretty much like a curry soup dish with like noodles and seafood. But of course, in Minnesota, we couldn't get the authentic laksa noodles. So my mom would just use like Italian spaghetti. And it actually worked out pretty well. So it's just a lot of improvising. There's a huge Hispanic population in my hometown in Rochester. So, and there's actually a lot of crossover between Hispanic cuisine and Asian. So we were able to like, really use their supermarkets, their grocery stores to kind of find stuff that we could, kind of imitate our foods from. And then there's a lot of Vietnamese and Thai too. So we've been able to go to their grocery stores and get kind of the spices and herbs that they use to really spice up our food. So just about, it's a lot of mixing, I would say, for my family.
Had to get a little bit creative.
Yes, yeah, it's kind of fun though.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for sharing your experiences. This was really interesting to hear about. Does anyone have anything to add or anything else you want to say?
Well, I think Tina will be posting like a list of kind of common ingredients that we use in our culture, as well as some like restaurant recommendations. So feel free to check them out. Yeah, if you guys have any questions about like dishes or stuff, there's a ton of resources online that you can look up to for each of the different cuisines. And don't be afraid to really be adventurous and try different dishes is kind of the recommendation I have.
So real quick before we all hop off, and I'm going to throw this, I didn't prep you guys for this question, but I figured it'd be easy enough. But just let's go around, and Hannah, when it gets to you, I figured you can maybe list one dish that you would recommend from your cultural backgrounds, and for Hannah, maybe one from your boyfriend's Vietnamese background that you might have tried at their house or at a restaurant. If you could list one thing and have someone try it, what's the name of it, and then describe it real briefly for us. Zoe, you want to go ahead?
So the one that I would feature would be like a tofu and shrimp. It's like a dried tofu, and then you have like the shrimp kind of like ground up and then like stuffed in it. So those are like cooked in the little pots and stuff. But I am not too sure about the actual name because different restaurants have like different style of naming it. But it's more like a stir fry and it's cooked in like a small little clay pot. So those are very nice dishes and I would definitely recommend it as a Cantonese dish.
That sounds delicious. Sophia?
I love soup dumplings. So yeah, I think they're just named soup dumplings. Especially if they hand made it and hand wrapped it, those are the best ones. The restaurant I recommend is not in Illinois, I believe, but it's like the famous restaurant that makes soup dumplings is called Din Tai Fung. So it's DTF. Yeah.
Yeah, Ding Tai Fung is really popular, I think mostly in Asia, right? And then there's a few that are in the US, but soup dumplings are amazing.
They're so good.
Definitely try
I
them.
love them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few restaurants in Chicago area that has it.
Mhm.
So you just have to search for them. Siobhan?
Yeah, I would have to say I would have to recommend two. So one would definitely be the Hainanese chicken and chicken rice dish. If you're looking for something like not too crazy, that's a really great one. I think everybody would love it. But if you're looking for something more adventurous, there's a dish called nasi lemak. So it's a Malaysian dish. So it's served on like a banana leaf usually, and you have a little fried like sardine, fish, really, really good. They deep fry it, so it's crispy on the outside, but really moist and juicy on the inside. And then they have coconut rice. Then they have some like dried shrimp with peanuts coated in sugar. And then they have some like chili paste to go along that with. So you kind of just like eat it all together, and it's just very surprisingly really, really good. They all like kind of mix together. So that's the two I'd recommend.
I like that you went like the safer route,
Yeah.
and then you're like, if you want to be adventurous, this is what you go for.
Yep.
A little contrast there.
Yes.
Awesome. Hannah?
I would say like one of the most popular Vietnamese dishes is pho or beef noodle soup. When I first tried it at my boyfriend's house, I'm not a huge fan. He like put a ton of hoisin sauce in it, and I was just like, this is just like not really my thing. But I think it's kind of like what you make of it. I really like it a little bit more like tangy, so I like a lot of lime juice or lemon juice in mine, and a bunch of cilantro and veggies. So I have learned to love it. So I definitely think it's kind of, you can make it your own and put whatever sauces you like in it. Um, a place in Peoria that has really good pho is Ton Lin.
Mhm.
And there's also like one called Pho on Main, and it's also really good.
Yeah.
So.
I agree. Pho is one of those dishes that you need to try first because every broth at every place that you
Yes.
do is going to be different.
Mhm.
So then you decide what you want to add to it. And so the fact that he put a bunch of hoisin sauce, like I can taste that type of pho. I'm like, it's probably super sweet. And like you said, adding the herbs and the lime juice probably made it a lot better for you. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for doing this. Hannah, thank you for hosting. Sophia, Siobhan, Zoe, thank you for joining us and sharing your experiences. And I definitely will share those resources. So we'll have a recommendation like summer bucket list that we put out, and then the herbs and spices from the different countries. All
Thanks.
right. Thank you everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Yeah.
Thank you.